This is game 3 from G2 versus BLG in the elimination match at Worlds. The winner of this moves on to quarters. The loser is out of the tournament. We're going to look at this entire VOD from the 80 carry perspective, breaking down all the key moments, all the fights, what we can learn from it, and kind of how the results ended up happening. So a really interesting bot lane matchup. Taric Kalista into Ezreal Rel. Taric Kalista, very strong laning duo. Ezreal Rel, not the hottest in the 2v2 against the Kalista in general, but level 1, Ezreal does have the ability to get a lot done because he does have his passive, so he kind of has 2 abilities level 1, which is pretty crazy, but either side could play for push, in my opinion. Taric's probably slightly out-jeweled by the Rel in the 1v1 as well, because Taric's abilities level 1 pretty useless. So we see that Elk and On kind of understand what's happening here, stepping in that third bush and slowing down their push as much as they can. It's a really cool thing to kind of implement in your games. We're not going to get too into detail. I think people often get way too detailed when looking at this stuff, but in general, the premise is once you've secured the push, you no longer need to push, right? You can just leave the minions where they are, step past the wave and take aggressive trades, which is exactly what Ezreal has just done. Not going to go back and have a look. If you want to rewind the VOD and go have a look at it, feel free. But very simply, they got level 2. Then they've slowed down the push and elected instead to harass the opponent. Really, really replicable way of playing out your lane. Crashes the wave. 16 out of 19 CS. Beautiful Qs here on the Kalista, blocking the bone plating again. This is another common thing you'll see where the support kind of is a bit of a human ward, just getting a bit of information. And then we'll see what they do with the wave. Now, a really common thing to do with the wave, if you do a 3-wave crash, is you just crash the 4th wave, just in their face. Like, it's a nice way to kind of get damage on the tower, make sure that you hit level 3 before your opponent does, because sometimes what can happen is you hit level 2 first, but then you hit level 3 second because you let this wave meet in the middle, let the enemies back into the game. So really nice to push that 4th wave as well. And this just makes the lane return to neutral, right? So now we're in a situation where they've got a lot of push. If we press over and look at the pot situation, Kalista was out of potions, Taric was out of potions. Ezreal Rel's both sticking around on their potions. Kalista finds a nice recall with the wave in neutral state. Let's see what Elk's response is going to be to that, because there's a lot of things Elk could have done with the wave here. He could have matched the reset. He could have instantly called for his support to shove the wave in base. Instead, he's slow building. Something you can do when you force the opponent to reset so early in the game, you don't have to necessarily feel pressured to reset yourself, right? Let's say, for example, he forced the Kalista to reset a few minutes from now, and she based for Berserker Greaves, or even like a pickaxe or something, right? Not that Kalista would necessarily build pickaxe, but you'd feel a lot more pressured to have to match the recall because you're not going to be confident that you're going to be able to crash this big wave. But because Ezreal isn't actually that far behind in items, like Kalista only bought dagger and boots, she can actually just stay in lane. And then Ezreal can just stay in lane, doesn't feel the need to match. He can then build a wave of his own, which is what he's done here. And then he can just find a recall at a time that suits him, right? Whether that's going to be when his support comes back, whether it's going to be after he crashes a big wave, or when it's going to be like anytime another skirmish happens on the bot side. Generally speaking, Ezreal wants to base for 1300 gold. That is his ideal recall because he gets Sheen and his Tear of the Goddess. Let's see if he has that amount. He has 1100. So he's probably going to get, what, Tear and double longsword, I imagine. He buys Tear, longsword, and boots. Okay, so he's not taking the boot mastery this game. What runes does he have? So he's taken Jack of all trades instead of the boot mastery. Interesting. So he's gone for the boots on the first recall instead. But you can tell he's just taken a pretty average recall, honestly. Like, this isn't the best recall in the world. Maybe sometimes in competitive, there's more that goes into the decision to recall than just like your own money. Whereas in solo queue, it's kind of just like, we just want to base when we have the gold values that we want and making sure we're not missing too many minions when we base, right? But sometimes the decisions get a bit more intricate. In this situation, I probably would have just like crashed a big wave into Kalista and then tried to recall instantly. But there must have been a reason that he stayed. We're not going to get too into that now. But regardless, we're just chilling, slow building the wave. Looks like they've elected to swap the lanes up. Kalista has gone top out of base to play for grubs, whereas Ezreal has stayed on the bot wave. We'll see what transpires. I'm just going to speed forward a bit because not much is going on in terms of the 80 carries right now. Ezreal just crashes his waves and then he's going to rotate over. Looks like Ezreal is taking over mid while a bit of a scrap at the grubs might happen. And then I assume what's going to happen is either someone's going to teleport and defend bot, or they're going to overload top. But that's not happening. Ezreal is actually coming bot to defend. So this is kind of interesting. In terms of the actual raw skirmish right now, I definitely favor G2. Their composition just spikes a lot earlier in terms of actually grouping and fighting than BLG's does. Like a level 5 Skarner is not going to outduel level 5 Xin. Renekton is obviously one of the best champs in the game at level 6. Silas is a really decent skirmisher, but then again, so is Ryze. And then, yeah, Taric Kalista just going to have much more freedom than a tier Ezreal, right? Like Ezreal just wants to scale. So I guess that's why they put Ezreal on the weak side pretty permanently from the whole game, because he just wants to scale. A pretty common play pattern you'll see with Ezreal's is you play aggressive level 1 with your passive, and then once you get tier, you kind of slow it down. And then you want to spike again once you get 1 or 2 items. So Alex taking nice and slow, CSing really well. Just chilling versus his Renekton. Let's look what's happening up here. Kalista is very happy with the situation as well, because she just gets a free scale into the game. Rumble's really good in these situations as well, because he can just nuke minions with his ulti. Makes it very annoying for them to crash towers. But Renekton also is very sneaky, clearing waves. He just eat forward and queued the wave off camera, but both sides kind of just neutralizing the game at the moment in the lane swap. We'll speed forward again because not a whole lot is going on. Renekton trying to cheat the wave, ends up dying. Maybe he thought they took a reset, but they were just dipping into the river, potentially fake resetting. Rel takes a nice reset. This is something you'll see quite a lot from high rank support players as well, is that when you need to base as a bot lane, the support is always the one that recalls first, because one, they don't damage the wave as much as the AD carry does, so they're not really needed to make sure it crashes. And their tempo is just way more important. Like Rel getting out onto the map this early compared to Ezreal is really important. Whereas you look on this side, the Taric is still in base, whereas Rel's here, and let's see what that turns into. Rel is the one that gets to kind of poke her nose in the river first, get some information, lay down a ward, even stealing the enemy Scryer, really, really nice. And then the enemy Taric here just ends up going topside, but it's always good to give your support roam timers like that by letting them base early. Now we're still in this side lane situation where not much is happening, so we'll speed forward. Kalista's on the mid wave. I assume what's going to happen eventually is Ezreal's going to join them on the mid wave, but for now they're kind of just farming plates against this Renekton, so we're just speeding forward. Another reason why G2's bot lane kind of want to be mid is because Silas as a melee champion is really bad at defending towers. BLG using their grub lead to just break the turret. Now we're probably going to turn to this part of the game where AD carries both lane mid, and then we're up to which side of the map we're going to play towards. We can just kind of take it slow, push in mid waves, lean to one side, make progress. Elk trying to go for that W into E combo there, but doesn't get it. BLG taking the dragon. So what you'll see now is they're basically going to trade turns, right? So BLG's AD carry Elk is just going to push out mid waves and lean towards where his team is, which is very heavily on the bot side, as you can see. Whereas G2 are going to push out mid waves, and Han Summer and Mickey X are going to lean towards top side. So they pick the Rumble. Rumble trying his best to stay safe and go for the Grump on the weak side, but caught out regardless. We'll see what happens next, because they've already pushed out the bot wave now. Not a whole lot to do because they're a person down, but still clearing out waves and leaning to one side. Maybe potentially looking to retake this blue buff a little bit, push them out. Really, really important that Ezreal makes it back to these mid waves before they like kind of touch. And Ezreal starts hitting the wave first, just to make sure that they can crash into Kalista's tower. And with this part of the game, a lot of macro. So let's just speed forward. It's going to be a lot of clearing mid waves and leaning. So they're leaning to the objective. It looks like it's kind of not being contested by G2. Then G2 get a turn to lean somewhere. So they're just clearing out the vision and getting the crab. Trying their best to push out the mid wave. And then we're just going to lean to one side again. They take a base this time. What items have we got? We've got Triforce on the Ezreal. Kalista on Bork is stronger in the 1v1. Then Ezreal on the Triforce. Blade of the Rune King is one of the best one-item spikes in the game, so it's important to keep into account. G2 get one mid-wave here. This is an important timer because Ezreal just picked up the red buff, allowing Kalista to get on the wave first, which means that Kalista now has one turn to play the map. So let's see what happens. Rotates all the way out topside. Tries to go for a pick on the Sylas, doesn't end up happening. Sweeping the vision, fishing for a play. All really nice stuff. And we'll slow back down to normal speed and we'll kind of watch the sequence around this next neutral objective, which is about to happen. So clearing out midwave. Rel finds a bit of an engage. Taric engages back. Ezreal just hitting from outside the fight here. Really, really nice Q onto the Taric there. Taric had flash. Confident E forward. Flash in by the Xin Zhao there. But Ezreal calmly just flashes and E's to the side. Most of the team fights we're going to watch from the Ezreal's perspective because he just plays it so well. We'll watch that one more time and then we might look at it from Kalista's POV as well. So watch how he values his life this whole time as well. So first of all, beautiful ulti, right? Always really nice as Ezreal to fire these ultis from Fog of War. So what you'll see is Ezreal won't walk around the corner there. No, he'll fire the ult from Fog, makes it impossible to dodge, insane amount of damage going into the fight. Q's Taric as well, applying the red buff. And then look, he doesn't just go and catch the wave. He sees his support's body language and he goes to follow up. Hits his W, auto attack Q. Stacking up his passive. Like we said, a really nice W into Q on the Taric. Lands his Q, E's forward. Always weaving in those auto attacks between Qs on Ezreal. Flashes. Finishes this guy. Then we see what happens is Renekton just gets this really nice double dash, empowered Q, and flashes on his head. Whereas Kalista the whole time has just kind of been cutting the tanks, dealing with Sylas and the Skarner. So we'll see throughout the game how kind of Ezreal does get the upper hand in the team fights. Just starts doing way more damage than Kalista does, getting more uptime. Ezreal really likes versing short range comps where he can just stand there and get a lot of value from his Qs and his autos. There are some games where Ezreal kind of has to play that range character, where he can't actually auto attack a whole lot, but games where you can afford to just get a lot of autos out as Ezreal, you do so much damage. Another nice R from Fog as they overload the mid and get the tower. And the game really turns into a lot of team fights. We might look at this from Kalista's POV for a little bit now, just because I think G2 start doing a lot of good stuff. So Kalista approaching that 2-item spike. Ezreal is on the 2-item spike and is about to evolve into Romana. So Ezreal's really, really strong right now. Kalista basing. Hopefully she gets her Ginzus, which I believe she will. Great. Now Kalista is also very strong. Both very strong champions. Kalista deploying out topside to this play because she sees something happening. But not a whole lot to do, right? Just kind of waiting to collect the midwave. Trading for the mid tower. This is something we'll see all the time where if you go back and have a look at the map state right now as Kalista's deploying onto the map, they're overloading top. Don't run out here and try and defend the tower. Just run mid and trade. When you can trade, trading's fantastic. As long as you're not trading down and they can pressure for T2, you can always base and defend it if you need to, but yeah, don't want to stand there watching towers die very often. Always looking for jungle camps in between waves as well. Really, really nice to see. And now we've got Dragon coming up in quite a while. So the time periods in between the Dragon as an AD carry, the main thing you're doing is you're just carrying mid waves as aggressively as you can, or collecting them if you can't contest them aggressively. And then you're just mostly looking to farm jungle camps, assist your team, clear vision, lean to one side, stay out of trouble, making sure that you maintain high economy leading up to the neutral objectives, and then play the team fights really well. So that's what you see constantly. Hans Hammer's just collecting these waves on his side of the map, staying safe, getting farm, because it's all he can do. He has no side lane control. So deploying out mid again. BLG pushing into the topside jungle after clearing mid waves. Looks like they're swapping their vision onto the bot side now. Dragon spawning, which is really nice to see. They clear out mid waves, leaning down. Looks like a bit of a fight happens here. Elk gets absolutely obliterated in this fight. Really, really nice Taric ulti blocking the Ezreal ult. We'll play this out, then we'll watch it back again. Ezreal's trying his best to play the fight from the outside. Sin's out almost killing the Ezreal there. Renekton doing a lot of work. Sin's out taking out Skarner. Ezreal surviving for a ridiculous amount of time on the back end here. I think he also gets some really nice accurate Qs to kind of stay alive for as long as he can. Lands a Q on Kalista there. Q another on Kalista there, but goes down to Xin Zhao. So let's have a look at how this fight started, because we'll watch it from the blue side vision as well. So they clear mid wave really aggressively and move into the jungle, right? Sylas has teleport on the top side and Rumble's pushing bot. So this looks good, but they have Ryze. Ryze simply just ulties into the fight. Skarner almost tags both of them. If he tagged the Ryze as well with this ulti, Ryze wouldn't be able to follow up with this root. But Ezreal gets rooted. He has to E and flash away. He also has no cleanse. Xin Zhao then tags him with this W. And then he just flies in and just obliterates the Ezreal. But Ezreal gets his E back up. And look at how Ezreal gets his E back up. Look at his E cooldown. It's really important he lands everything here. So as soon as the guys appear, he doesn't fire any Qs. He E's and then instantly he flashes away and lands his Q. This Q makes his E cooldown go a bit shorter. Lands another Q on Taric. And then another Q on Xin Zhao. So he's E'd and then landed 3 Qs back to back to back. And that's made his E cooldown come up again, which allows him to E backwards, right? He then lands another Q. Gets this beautiful fruit, which is just randomly there. He gets incredibly lucky with the fruit as well. Because then when Xin Zhao flashes on him here, he's actually healthy enough to E down and survive. Which is really crazy. Hansama also doing really good DPS in this fight. Let's have a look one more time from the Kalista's POV. Clearing mid. Playing the back end. Just hitting the front line. Playing nice and slow. Rel dies. Doing his best to hit. Really nice Kalista ult there. Just hitting the front line. Never extending too far. Potentially could have had an opportunity to flash on the Ezreal a bit earlier in this team fight, but definitely played it like in like a valuing your life kind of mindset, which is nice. So, G2 win the fight. We'll see what happens next. We'll go back to All Vision. Let's start off on this Baron. And look at this from the perspective of like G2. The whole enemy team is going to have to funnel in, but they're kind of out of tools. Xin Zhao gets a really nice ulti, but unfortunately just goes down. Kalista's stuck hitting this tank rel. Really, really difficult to hit. Gets the rumble. Sylas landing this E was really crucial, actually. Maybe Kalista could have cleansed that, but yeah, Sylas absolutely pops off in this team fight. Ezreal gets cleaned up on the back end, so just a really bad Baron start. There's nothing else to say about this one. Just a really bad Baron. Had no tools to turn with. And now Ezreal's able to take this Baron out. So we'll skip forward. There is a couple more team fights this game. Might just jump forward in the VOD a little bit, just how they use the Baron. So this is something you commonly see, pushing out mid, then rotating to a side lane, then a fight happens. Let's go back and have a look. Apologies for jumping around the bot a little bit. Cool, so we're sieging up bot. Enemies try and make like a bit of a Hail Mary engage with the TP. Ezreal, beautiful positioning over this wall. Gets a 4-man ulti, which is unfortunately blocked by the Taric ult. But really, really nice use of E as Ezreal. Just constantly going over walls, then back over to bait people. Eing forward. Not afraid to just deal damage. One thing I've noticed with Elk and good Ezreal players is they just make such good use of their E and W. Like, their Qs are obviously accurate, but they do miss every so often. But it's the constant W spam. Look at the W cooldown. It's 3.6 seconds. This thing does, what, like 500 damage? When it detonates, 446. That's a disgusting amount of damage. So it does way more damage than your Q. So your Ws are incredibly important as Ezreal. So sieging up the base, get the inhib. Then they leave. Have a nice little ulti from Fog. Always stepping up vision before ulting. That's a nice thing we can learn from this. I'm going to skip forward just a bit until this next dragon. I don't believe it's contested. The dragon goes down for free. BLG siege up top lane. Take this tower down as well. Then I think the next fight is really around the next siege position. So we'll just jump to this because all the mid-game macro stuff isn't totally applicable to solo queue games from an 80 carry perspective. He's just strong, so he's contesting mid waves, right? Making sure to collect as much farm as he can. Let's go back and have a look at how this engage happens. Let's look from blue side vision. So 5 on mid. Silas has found his beautiful flank position over here. From Ezreal's perspective, his job is just to push this wave. And then follow up if anything crazy happens. Rel finds a really nice flash engage. Ezreal just queuing from the outside, hitting his Ws. Just hitting frontline. Misses his Q there. Ease forward for damage. Just mashing his abilities into them. W again. So many auto attacks with the red buff is just so powerful. Then I love this confident E forward here because he plays this so crazy. It's not even the most accurate thing in the world, but his Qs on the back end are really good. And he just cleans up and just creates so much space. So let's look at this little sequence at the end of the team fight. So right at the start, he's just hitting the front line. Auto Q, hitting forward. Auto, after his W, auto attack, tags a rise with his Q there. Wing off cooldown, as we said, queuing into the pack. Renekton dashes forward, no hesitation, just ease backwards. W auto. And this is where he kind of goes crazy, where he Q autos a Renekton. Misses this Q onto Kalista. This would have been really nice. But he ease forward, auto attacks rise again, tries to Q Kalista, but she dodges. Goes for the ulti, which I guess was aimed at the rise there. Flashes down. I think did he flash auto Kalista at the end there? It's amazing how many auto attacks this guy gets off on Ezreal. So he auto attacks Rumble, the Renekton, sorry. That's an E auto. Auto, Q, R, flash auto. How often do you see a flash auto attack at 31 minutes as Ezreal? His E's are coming up so often as well because he's just perma-queuing. When there's no champions to queue, he just queues minions to make his E come up and to keep his passive ticking as well. So yeah, Elk just really shined in that fight. Just stayed safe the whole time, was never in threat of dying. Flipped the switch at the end and went aggressive. That's just what we want to see. And they got the Baron. Then I think the last fight of the game is kind of just when they're sieging up. And there's not a whole lot to say about it. They're sieging up bot lane. Enemy Renekton, I believe, go through a bit of a TP flank. Let's just see how Ezreal responds. Just ease to his beautiful position down here. Full combos. Always auto-attacking. W off cooldown again. Ease forwards. Tagging everyone with the red buff. Just so accurate with his Qs at this point in the game as well. Constantly eating forward. More Qs, more E's, more W's. And they're able to just close the game out. And I don't know the actual damage stats on this one, but Ezreal does a ridiculous amount of damage in this game. He is like just the massive damage source around his team. Played so aggressively when he needed to, played so safe when he needed to, just outputs so much damage on Ezreal. So yeah, hopefully you can see how he kind of took over this game himself. Like it didn't look like he's like necessarily the one calling the shots or making the plays around him, but he's executing at every single chance he gets. And he has such a consistent way of approaching the game. He's never really at risk of doing anything. The only times he died was where he got Rise ulted over here. And then he just died in one other team fight in the game where his team died as well. So this is exactly what we want from an Ezreal player. Awesome to see. This is why they won the game.